This week, from the guys at It Came From GenX, we discuss working from home and the pros and cons. The NFL playoff picture, we discuss Damar Hamlin, prayers to him. And with that, Skip Bayless, what he said. Was it uncalled for, justified? Music influence. Is it an influence? Is that hogwash? Gen X recommends. We also have pop culture history with The Apprentice back in 2004, I believe, as well as Rocky debuted back in 1978. We discussed that. So here we go.
This is an It Came From GenX video.
Hey, welcome everybody. It's time for It Came From GenX. I am Keith Porter. And if you take a look or listen, I'm joined by Michael Skinner, the Skin Bone, yes, and my man Brian Fisher, Fish. And we are in our second show of year 2023. Coming at you, George Jetson, just around the corner. And wow, a year it's been already, just 9 days into it. So I kind of gave it away. We are recording this show on January 9th. And we hope you're all having a great year. So without further ado, Skinbone, how have you been since we last seen each other, my friend?
Things are well. Miss Marcy had a procedure that went well last week. Everything's good. Back to work. Just things are finally starting to slow down to where we can start making some plans to get out and hang out with friends again. Okay. Holidays was really busy with all the birthdays and everything going on. So glad things are starting to slow down a little bit.
Well, that's good.
Catch our breath.
Two things. First of all, I am glad they're starting to slow down. Miss Marcy actually mentioned that to me a few days ago, and I was glad to hear it. You guys, of all people, definitely deserve a break. Secondly, don't ever let her have a procedure done without telling me, so I can be praying for her. All right. Fish, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Doing well, man. Nice weekend. Allie and Al, give a quick shout out to we went to the Idaho Bar and Grill over in Firestone Park here in Akron, Ohio.
Yeah.
So I had not been there in years, and just
long time
popped
for me
in my
too.
head. Yeah, popped in my head. We went there. Man, I tell you what, delicious food. It's upscale. We made a reservation. Service was terrific. So if you're in the Akron, Ohio area, definitely go check out the Idaho Bar and Grill. From the outside, you would not think it's anything fancy, but inside, it's a beautiful place. Like I said, just a very extensive upscale menu and some of the best burgers in town to boot.
Really,
So
I've never heard about any food there. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. It was delicious. We enjoyed that Friday, and then Saturday hung out with Dean and Megan in the evening. And then Sunday hung out with Dean and Megan again for lunch, and then hung out with Coopers and Jim Cunningham, buddy, on the Sunday afternoon. Watched the Cowboys debacle, and we'll talk about that.
Boy, you're really hurting for friends, aren't you?
No, it was nice. It was nice that it was a rare Sunday for me where all I did was focus on spending time with people and hanging out, and that was good friend weekend. Of course, you guys were both invited on Sunday. You couldn't make it, but that's okay. We'll plan another time soon. So nice weekend overall. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a very nice weekend for me. And pursuant to that invite you were talking about, I could not even hold my head up because it was such a big weekend. As we talked about before the show, you saw that my son and his lovely fiance Amber came down, and we had our Christmas dinner and gift exchange, a little photo shoot. It was just a really, really nice day. Sunday was a kind of a somber day in church. My cousin lost his brother, And so we were hurting about that, but we did stay focused, and we were blessed enough to get all our coats and hats and gloves and scarves and socks together. And we went driving through downtown Akron up to Hyde Park, and we're able to be a blessing. We first guy we saw, boom, freezing, walking down the street with a little, thin sweat jacket on, snot running down his nose. And he was so happy to get a coat and gloves. And I mean, it was just really awesome. So by the time I came back home, watched the recorded Steelers game, saw your invite, man, I was like, but it was a good weekend. So
Good.
And speaking of Allie, she is just so sweet. She's always got something nice to say on one of my pictures, or a nice comment or a like or something, and I really appreciate that. So anyway, all right, guys, lots to talk about. And before we do that, tell them where they can find the show.
All right. Well, first of all, I'm going to mention we're seeing some more listens out in Germany. So we see you out
That's
there in
awesome.
Germany. Thank you for your continued support. And we see a few new countries. Again, we don't know if you're listening to us more than once, but we've seen a few new countries pop up over the past week or two. So if you are listening, we do appreciate it. So we see Laos, Ukraine. Now we mentioned Ukraine on the Convincing Idiots podcast. So we picked up somebody listened to us in Ukraine. So obviously, if you are listening out there, our hearts are with you, and thoughts and prayers for you and your loved
Absolutely.
ones. Mexico and Colombia. So if you're listening out there, again, we appreciate that. Tell a friend. Thank you so much. And we can be heard, if you're in one of those countries, you know this already. We could be heard on all major podcast platforms on demand, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Overcast, and plenty more. So pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us. Just search the It Came From Gen X podcast. Give us a follow or subscribe over the app works that you're on. And as we publish new episodes weekly, they'll pop in your podcast library to listen whenever you feel like it. And if you are able, give us a rate and review. Helps others find the show. You might be watching us. Segments can be found on the Boss Code Media TV network. We have a very own channel there. Find them on your smart TV device or your portable device. Just look up the Boss Code Network app, download it, subscribe, and we are on there with other creative folks across the country. Check us out there. We appreciate our partner, Des the Reason, very talented national rap artist. And he's got some songs and videos on there exclusive to the app as well. You also might be watching us on our YouTube channel at It Came From Gen X. Full episodes are there, segments, etc. Give us a free subscribe while you're at it. All show information can be found in two main places. Our Linktree page is simply look up Linktree. It Came From Gen X. It's simply a page with links to our social media and where you can listen to us. And our website, itcamefromgenx.wordpress.com. All show information is on the website where you can listen to us, links to new episodes, links to videos, and, as I mentioned last week, a link to our podcast merch store. So we now have merchandise with our cool logos that my daughter Peyton made. And also the Convincing Idiots podcast as well, our partner podcast. So shirts, mugs, pint glasses, all kinds of stuff. And we'll be adding more stuff out there if you wish to support us that way and sport some merch. If you do anything at all, tell a friend, rate, review, as I mentioned, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Keep up with us. And we greatly appreciate your support in another year, 2023. Thank you.
Absolutely. A couple of great, exciting things you mentioned. Obviously, the merchandise is really awesome. Another step for It Came From Gen X, as well as Convincing Idiots. And we're very excited about that. But also, man, we love all of our listeners and appreciate them. But if you were in some of these countries, Ukraine or Germany, that's just very exciting. Please reach out to us if you can. via Facebook or whatever, we'd love to hear from you. Even, give you a mention on the show or something. So thank you very much for checking the show out. All right, Skinbo, you ready, babe?
Let's do it, as Tom
Take
Look
it
would say.
away.
All right, so
Let's do
a
it.
lot of stuff going on around the country, a lot of stuff going on around the world. And I thought I'd try to stay on the lighter side, maybe the professional side of things with people in work.
I've never seen you on the lighter side.
Especially after COVID, that there are more and more people working from home. Businesses have figured out a way to become remote so they can have people staying at home working versus coming into an office. And everybody saves money both sides. Me personally, I am 100% working from home, and I work for a financial institution. It was a 45-minute drive one way for me to go to work every day and come home. So just think about the gas savings and the time that I'm saving by not doing so. However, there's the side where, okay, so companies offer time off, whether it's PTO, whether it's vacation and sick time, however they want to name it. Me personally, I get 40 hours of personal time I can do with the sick time, and then I've got my vacation that I've accrued for, going to be hard to believe, 13 years I've been at this institution. What people are finding out, especially moms and dads that have children, especially school-age children, if you're in the office and you get called away to come pick up your kid at school, the companies are not allowing them to use this sick time or this personal time. They're wanting to jump online when they get home, get the kids situated, and we'll get on Zoom. Or can you pick up this call? They're going to call them on their personal cell phones. And I find that disturbing, especially being a work from home gentleman. If I've got something going on at home and I need to disconnect from work, I'm disconnecting from work. You're not going to call me. If it's an important, shoot me a text. Hey, something going on. And when I have time that I'm not dealing with something in my personal life, I'll call back, or it can wait till tomorrow. I don't know if everybody has this luxury. I don't know if you gentlemen have that luxury. I know Brian Fisher works a hybrid, and Keith, you work in and out of the house day after day with all your ventures that you got going on. So I wanted your guys' opinion. Have you run across this, something that you guys are running into? Like, I took off half the day for Marcy's surgery on Friday. I got her home, got things going on. I'm like, you know what? I could use the rest of this day to do some errands. And I texted my boss. I didn't hear from anybody the rest of the day. And that's the way it should be. I don't know if everybody has that luxury. I wanted your guys' thoughts on this, if you've run across it, or what can society do to try to disconnect from work? Because if people are getting burned out, people are going to quit. You're going to lose good people if they can't disconnect from all the stress and disconnect from work in general. Everybody says it's a job. You only have one family, but you could have many jobs type deal.
Right.
So curious to see what you guys think on this.
Well, as you were talking, a lot of things entered my mind. First of all, I want to say you're watching us on the Boss Code Media Network. Fish Mission National Recording Artist. That's the reason. Please check him out. YouTube, Spotify, outstanding rapper. And check out his video for Exodus. The end of that video, there's a superstar in that video.
Oh, yeah.
Looks very familiar. So you might want to check that video
podcaster.
out. Yes.
Yes. Known in Laos.
Yeah, right.
Very big.
I believe.
And I am huge in Prague. So, but anyway, got a couple of things, Skinner. First of all, also, you mentioned me working at home, but I also work for the county. I'm not supposed to say it, but I work for Fair Housing. I've been doing that for 13 years, and couldn't ask for a better group of people to work for. I don't know why people complain about things like this. When I hear things like this, first thing that comes to my mind is I'll tell them up yours, especially if it comes to my family. Now, I understand you got to work, you can make money and blah, 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 blah. But you know how when you go to buy a house, they tell you, oh, it's a seller's market or it's a buyer's market, and we all know what that means, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, look where we are in the job market today. It's a employees market because everybody's desperate for employees right now because nobody wants to work. So I don't understand why this is even a problem with some people. The employees have the power nowadays. No one can keep anyone, let alone someone that's faithful. And if you're good at your job, you really have the power. So if it came down to my family, you know what? I'll tell you where you could go kick rocks. So it wouldn't even be a hesitation for me. And plus, I wouldn't work for somebody who would not honor family. That's something that when I would look for a job, I would want to hear and know where you stand on that. Or a lot of companies have made it a point to let you know we value family. And a lot of companies look for people who value family. So why work for somebody who doesn't see that as being important? Whoever you are in charge, you got a family, most of you. So I would just tell them where they could go, but I wouldn't work for nobody like that. And my second point is, which I forgot what my second point is, but yeah, what just don't work for nobody like that. I don't understand what the big deal is. Just my thoughts.
I got you. Fish.
Well, yeah, I am extremely, as you mentioned, blessed to be able to work from home. These days we've been exclusively from home, and we're going to start to go back in the office with just 1 day a week, and it's hard to complain about that. Yeah, a lot of perks to work at home, as you mentioned. And if your company expects you to always sort of be on call, because all that stuff starts at the top. That starts at the top of that organization and the culture that they wish to build. So I agree with you 100%. It should be the same as if you're working in an office. If you have the time allotted, and you gave a great example, Skinner, where you informed your boss, hey, I got a thing. I'm not going to be around. You communicated so people weren't assuming that you're there and discovered that you weren't or they couldn't reach you or something like that, which certainly could cause frustration and could doubt, it creates some unnecessary doubt that are you really doing what you're supposed to be doing and this and that and the other. Trust your employees. They get the job done and they communicate and they have the time up there. It should be as simple as that. So if you take advantage of those privileges, then you might lose them if you're not careful as an employee.
So Fitz and I touched on two different aspects of what you said. I talked about the having a family emergency, as you were alluded to, and he talked about make sure you put your time in and your free time is your free time. So
Yep, that's right.
Makes sense to me.
All right. That is all I got for today. Do you want to say one quick shout out to the teacher that was shot and killed by the 6-year-old at the school? Our hearts and prayers go out not only to the victim and her family, but the children, the other teachers, the staff, everybody that was involved in that. It's a story I stayed away from today, but I do want to give our prayers and our warm wishes to the families, for guidance and peace during this awful time.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. That's horrifying in so many different ways. Thanks. Appreciate it, Skinner. Okay, guys, a little bit of sports and music. Well, it is Monday, famously known as Black Monday in the NFL, because that's when the coaches get fired normally. Of course, in the case of Lovie Smith, formerly of the Houston Texans. They didn't let him even get on the bus. He was like, wow. Jeez, man, that was cold.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
That was
But
cold
anyway,
and calculated.
very calculated because the owner was walking the sidelines yesterday during the end of the game. So, and he was a one and done. I don't understand what could have happened for you to fire a coach after 1 year, who they were in so many games this year. You don't have a quarterback, you don't have a running back, you don't have a defense, and yet they fought hard in so many games. Give this guy a chance. The last coach, he was one and done. So I think what the Houston Texans really need is new ownership. But anyway, the regular NFL season is over with. Some of the usual suspects are in the playoffs, and we have some new kids on the block. Honorable mention, first of all, to the Detroit Lions. I know Dez the reasons he's gonna be mad, but they didn't make the playoffs. But man, they finished with a winning record, and they knocked the Green Bay Packers out of the playoffs in Lambeau Field. Outstanding job being done in Detroit. I think they are the team to reckon with in a year or so. I'm happy for Jared Goff because of what was done to him in LA. He took the Rams to the Super Bowl and then was just discarded like yesterday's trash. And to see him having some success is really, really nice. Okay, but also in the playoffs for the first time since I can't remember when, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I am really excited for this young team. They've been through so much. Our old Urban Meyer didn't do them any favors. And Trevor Lawrence had a really bumpy start. Different coaches, injuries, and to see them having some success, we're excited about. And the Browns didn't make the playoffs this year. The Steelers did not make the playoffs this year. Skinner's 49ers
Sorry, fellas, I got a little
are doing
warm.
good. The Dolphins made it in the playoffs. And of course, we were hoping the Dolphins would lose, so my Steelers would have been in the playoffs. The Cowboys are in the playoffs with 12 wins, but unfortunately, you have the wild card because the Eagles have the number 1 seed and won the division. So that's as far as all of our teams. Yeah,
Dolphins made the playoffs.
They made the playoffs, and they're going to get bum rushed next week. So don't get too excited. They're going to get mollywopped next week. But as far as all of our teams are concerned, that's what's going on. I'm so proud of my Steelers. I don't know what to do. This team was 2-6. Everyone was saying they wouldn't win another game. They had the only offensive line in the NFL that played every game, no injuries, and they got so much better. Najee Harris went over 1,000 yards. We led the league in interceptions, and I think we are going to have an awesome team next year. So I'm excited about them. I think Cleveland's going to jail next year once Deshaun Watson gets training camp and all that other stuff going. So the AFC North will look very, very good. Now, the Cowboys have an interesting road because the first wild card or the first game of the playoffs is the wild card against Tampa Bay. And as Fisher knows, Brady is undefeated against your Cowboys. So this is going to be interesting. And unfortunately, they have to go on the road to Tampa. And Tampa has a losing record. But that's the way it works in the NFL. So Monday night, we'll be all watching and holding our breath to see what happens with the Cowboys.
Well, real quick, shout out to my brother-in-law, David, which you guys have met, Marcy's brother.
Yes.
He called me just ecstatic before the show started. He's obtained tickets because he lives in Florida in the Tampa Bay area, but he's a Dallas Cowboys fan, and he just purchased tickets for the game on Monday night.
Oh, okay.
Shout out to him and his wife, and hope they have a blast going to that game. Yeah,
me too. Since my Steelers didn't make it, I like to see Buffalo win. I wouldn't mind seeing the 49ers win. And I wouldn't mind seeing the Cowboys do something just for Fisher and Cooper, my nephew Charles' sake. And it should
Uncle
be. I can care less about the Dolphins.
Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam
be
called
happy
me
with this right now, wouldn't he?
He called me today, told me I better not mention him again on the show. So I want to mention Sam Moore of the Great Sam and Dave. Your Dolphins are going to get blasted next week by the Buffalo Bills. I said it. So here we go. With your strange coach and his strange little hairdo. That is one weird dude, man. Okay. The big news in the NFL, though, other than the regular season ending, was last week while we were doing the show. One of the worst injuries, if you will, happened that we've ever seen. Number 3 for the Buffalo Bills, Damar Hamlin, had a collision with T. Higgins of Cincinnati Bengals. He got up, tried to walk, and fell down. They immediately knew something was wrong. The training staff, who I can't commend them enough, came over. CPR was administered. It was apparent that this was very serious. An ambulance was called, and it was a traumatic moment for the players, if you will. Traumatic moment for all the fans and his family who were there in attendance. And I just can't imagine what was going through everyone's head. We watched this all night long. He was in critical condition. And it was just beautiful to watch a nation all week long kind of rally together with prayers and good sentiment for this young man who is doing so much better right now. It has been absolutely amazing. Just your thoughts, if any, on the end of the season or the Damar Hamlin situation, Fish.
Just for the end of the season, I mean, obviously I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'm nervous for next week. The Cowboys have not won a road playoff game since they had a guy named Troy Aikman quarterbacking. Yeah. So,
and yesterday's performance didn't help you any, I bet.
No. Dak's thrown way too many interceptions. So I will watch the game. As you guys know, we're going to shoot a different night of the show and everything to watch the game. But I am not highly optimistic that they will win. Anyway, so we'll see what happens.
No, we're shooting Monday. That's it.
I might want to shoot Monday by 9:00. It might be
somebody.
Over with. I don't know, but they should run the ball more. But I digress. So we'll see what happens. It'll be an exciting weekend of football playoffs. So that's for sure. And for Mr. Hamlin, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's a very scary moment, and kudos to the Bills training staff who come out. They literally saved his life. I mean, they had to restart his heart right there on the field.
Yes.
And then just this swift action by the local paramedics and the Cincinnati hospital. I mean, just really administered great care for this guy. And, it looks like he's going to pull through. He was discharged, I think today I saw discharged from the hospital.
Was he really? I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
He was discharged from Cincinnati Hospital to go back to Buffalo. He'll still be in the hospital there receiving more treatment.
Okay.
So yes, he was leaving Cincinnati today, which was a great sign.
Yeah, but like you say, Keith, just see the players rally around him, and just casual fans and people just wearing his jersey in the stands. Not even at Buffalo Bills games. It's nice to see
it was all over the country yesterday. It was great to see.
Yeah, and then to see the players in different games all come out to the middle of the field, who wanted to participate and kneel and pray, and the whole team, most of the teams out there. So all these things were great to see. So it was a very nice. Nice moment that came out of a scary moment for the NFL, for sure.
You see a lot of these players, and you would like to think something of their character. And sometimes we're kind of disappointed when we find out they're quite not like they portray on television. But I tell you, there's just 2 young players that I'm just more and more impressed with. Every time I see them, it's just something else. That is the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, Josh
Allen.
And my new favorite player the last couple of years, Joe Burrow, to me is he's just awesome. I don't know how many good things I can say about this young man. The way he carried himself during that whole traumatic incident and the stories you hear, he went into Buffalo's locker room to check on those guys. I mean, just a class act all the way. And I don't know if you guys saw the press conference after the game with Josh Allen yesterday. It was one of the most amazing moments for me, especially as a Christian. If it didn't bring you to tears, I don't know what would. He was just completely moved. And he was like, man, God is real. Just alluding to some of the things that they've seen. And of course, you could not write the script for all the emotional buildup for that game, and they run the opening kickoff back for a touchdown.
Yeah.
Now, not only did they do that, they ran back 2, and he found out. Of course, we know Damar Hamlin's number was 3. Everybody was wearing 3s. It had been 3 years and 3 months since Buffalo had ran the opening kickoff back. So, yeah, you couldn't write this type of stuff. Any thoughts, Skinner, real quick, before I go to my next point?
No, I can't really say any more than you guys have. Just the outreach from players and fans across the country. I watched a lot of football. I was trying, back and forth from the games all day yesterday, and just the Raiders. I forget who it was that they played because they were just awful.
The Raiders played
Kansas
Kansas City on Saturday, and
it was
Kansas
on
City
Saturday,
clowned them.
right in the middle of all the black and gray. There were just 2 fans there from Buffalo with number 3 jerseys.
Okay.
Nowhere else did you see them within probably 3 or 4 any other colors other than black and gray. So,
Wow.
Kudos to everybody out there. Our hearts are still for Damar Hamlin for recovery. He's a football player, yes, but most importantly, this man's a human being. I would love to see him do a full recovery to have a productive life outside of football, because who knows, he may never play football again. But
We'll never know.
the fact that he was saved is just remarkable.
Right. So what I got you, Skidder, obviously this was horrific to watch, but we've seen more horrific, at least the actual incident in football over the last 20 or 30 years. What is the most horrific injury that you can recall, or the one that shook you up the most?
But truthfully, other than seeing stuff with today's technology, you can go back to Joe Theismann back in the 80s.
Oh, God. Yeah.
We didn't have instant replay. We didn't have technology that we have today, but
we had instant replay.
I was in front of the TV when that happened. I was watching that game when it happened.
So
and that, I won't say haunts me, but that image will take me to my grave.
Yeah. Especially at our age, GenXers, as a young kid, that just shook you up.
You want to explain the play to people that may not know what we're talking about?
Sure. The greatest linebacker to ever play, Lawrence Taylor, the New York Giants, went in and got a hit on Joe Theismann. Somehow, his leg, the tibia, just snapped in half. You saw the bottom half of his leg going one way, the bone coming through the sock, and I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence Taylor, who was known for his viciousness, his mouth, he would talk to you when he hurt you, immediately jumped up and was signaling the Redskin, now the Commanders, sideline for help because he knew something had went terribly wrong. And I'm sure he doesn't wish that on anybody. So that was a very terrible play. Never forget that one. Fish?
Yeah, that was bad. I saw that on Monday Night Football too at the time. It's recently there was a kid in college, some college basketball player.
NFL.
This has to be NFL?
Yeah.
I
was going to open it up, but there was like deaths, like in wrestling. You know what I mean? I can't think of his name at the moment. Owen Hart felt it was. I said, we'll just keep it to the NFL. Okay,
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's the next one that popped in my head as well. I'll just leave it there. The Joe Theismann play, like I said, the reaction to Lawrence Taylor, and then the fact it was on national television and all that. And I was not being a Cowboys fan. I certainly have to dislike the Redskins, but in Washington,
right.
But Joe Theismann was always a tough competitor, and it was a shame to see him go out like that in his career. So
yeah, I never liked Joe Theismann. I didn't like him as a player, and I didn't like him certainly as a commentator. But I didn't wish that on anybody, and I didn't want to see that happen. And one that I can't forget was when it happened to, at the time, Redskin. That's what it was. Quarterback Alex Smith.
Oh, Alex
And
Smith.
it was
God, yeah.
the crazy part. It was like, what was it, 20 years to the same date or something,
Yeah.
or the same
was.
day or something like
You're
that.
right. You're
Unbelievable.
right. Yeah, it's weird.
One of those things, like I said, you can't write that script. So
Yeah.
that was kind of unbelievable. But, you know, to not think of anything gruesome, the injury that stuck with me the most, because it just saddened me, Bo Jackson.
Oh,
Because you saw greatness ended in one play.
Yep.
In a play where nobody laid a hand on him. And maybe the guy who would have been the greatest of them all, his career was over with. And that was heartbreaking to me. He excited me like Michael Jordan did in football, man, because he was bigger than life. There was Bo Nose commercials everywhere. The guy became a legend in baseball when he ran up the wall. And you just think there was nothing that Bo could not do. When they said that his career was over from that injury, that was really heartbreaking to me. So, okay, guys.
Also, by the way, I'll add for Bo Jackson, the single toughest player in Tecmo Super Bowl history.
Yes, he is. That is very true.
Yeah.
Hey, anybody who ran over to B.O.S.S, I love it.
As soon as he got the ball in that video game, it's just like, crap.
Yes.
Nervous every time. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I saw a great story with him, and he was playing the Tecmo Bowl and talking about it. That was really good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, not everything about the Damar Hamlin story was great. Unfortunately, there was always those who would bring up something negative. And Skip Bayless is no stranger to controversy. He said a lot of outrageous things over the year. I started off liking Skip Bayless. I really can't stand that guy anymore. But his comments after the Damar Hamlin accident incensed a lot of people. And I'm not going to give the exact quote. Well, you know what? Here it is. When they found out that they canceled the game, which I was so excited to see them putting a premium over life and health over the game.
Mm-hmm.
That did me good, because we start to lose our humanity when it's all about the almighty dollar. This is what Skip said. No doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game. But how? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which suddenly seems so irrelevant. This is when we didn't know if this young man was going to live or die. And that's the tweet that he put out. So I just want your thoughts on this comment, inbounds, out of bounds, and what do you feel about Skip Bayless? And is there a announcer or analyst or commentator that you don't really like today? Let's give a start with you, Skinner.
He was completely out of bounds. That was completely uncalled for. I'm not a Skip Bayless fan, never have been.
Mm-hmm.
The guy, you can say crap for shock value all you want, but the horrible things that have come out of that man's mouth over the years, and this was I think the peak of all of them. That's a human being that fell to his death.
Hold your thought. This is not shock value. This is who he is.
That's
the sad part about it.
I'm talking about going back 15 years when he started.
Right, okay.
People thought of it as like a shock value.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Hamlin is a human being who basically fell to his death on the playing surface of the game that he loved to play.
That's right, he did.
Nobody knew what was going to happen, and that man had the nerve to say what he said. As far as commentators, and I'm not going to go anymore because that could be a rant for hours talking about that, just how bad that statement is. Locally here, especially with being a Cleveland Indians fan or Cleveland Guardians fan, Joe Buck has got to be the worst commentator in football, in baseball that I've ever seen. The man is just god awful, and he cannot hold his bias for nothing. And when you're a commentator like that, you've got to be able to hold your bias.
Joe Buck, okay. Just got the big contract with Fisher's boy, Troy Aikman. Okay. Yeah. He's considered one of the best.
There's a reason they switched over to ESPN from Fox, because they lost their job because he was just awful. We'll see how long it
I don't
lasts.
think they lose their job. I think they got offered more money.
Yeah, that's what it was.
They were the lead commentators before.
Well,
Where they were. Yeah, they were number one. All right,
Yeah.
Fox,
Fish.
yeah.
Fox is where they were.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Fish.
I agree. The comment was ridiculous. Yeah, it was definitely he was out of touch with how the average fan and person was feeling at that
Mhm.
point. So, yeah, were there people that probably agreed with him? Sure, yeah, probably some, but that was definitely the minority of fans. Probably may have agreed with that statement just from whatever. But certainly
Right.
the average person, these guys were in no state to play that rest of the game. Those players were
Right.
not in a good mental capacity
Yeah.
to play that game. And somebody else is going to get hurt if you're not careful.
I think you make
know?
a really good point, Fish. Not only was this insensitive to, well, let's not say Damar because he didn't know what was going on, but certainly Damar's family, certainly to other fans. But the players on that field were in no shape
No.
to force them to play after that. And Skinner made a great point that nobody's really saying, but the fact is he died on that field.
Yeah.
And you want to ask those guys to continue a violent game like pro football. He was insensitive to them. So I don't know, man. He's getting worse and worse. And I don't know if he's going to get fired because he's bringing in ratings, but the writing's on the wall. Go ahead, finish your comments, man.
Yeah, that's all. And then as far as commentators that are annoying, I don't know if there's anybody, they have opinions that, they annoy, various ones annoy me from time to time. I'm a Cowboys fan, obviously. We talked about that many times. Stephen A. Smith loves to pick on the Cowboys, but that's his thing. He knows it annoys a lot of people. That's why he does it.
Yeah.
But the stuff he says is the truth,
Right.
But I really can't say there's a commentator that I just absolutely dislike in general. I mean, Skinner is right. Joe Buck did show some bias when Cleveland played the Cubs in the World Series. It felt like he was rooting for the Cubs in the game, so that was kind of a big deal in the Cleveland area here. But I don't know. For the most part, I'm okay with most of them.
Cool.
Before you move on, I do want to say something on the opposite spectrum. Your boy, good Lord, I just had his name. Oh, not Romo, but the tight end that Greg Olsen.
Yeah.
Olsen, he's now coming on with CBS, and I don't know if you've watched any games with him as a commentator.
I haven't really.
He is absolutely fantastic. Now Tony Romo's pretty good too.
I think Tony Romo's awesome.
The guy can read a defense like Bernie Kosar can when he was in the booth.
Like telling you what's going to happen before it happens.
But Greg Olsen, if you pay attention, if you don't see any more this year, next year, try to catch a game with him. He's on CBS, I think. And he's going to be an up and comer. Someone to look out for him.
Okay,
yeah, he's really good.
Back to the Skip Bayless comment, Fish, when you said that maybe there were some people that probably agreed with him. You know what the first thought that ran through my mind is, especially in Ohio? You know why I thought there was a lot of people that were upset and agreed with him? Betting just started in Ohio.
Of course. Yeah, gambling. Yeah. Sure.
And when you mess with people's money, you're going to get people upset.
Fantasy football, gambling, all that stuff. It's, you're thinking the wrong things in that respect, but that's probably worse for people that just because of the, like I say, the betting and all that. Yep.
Somebody's betting juniors college fund away over a football game. So as far as commentators that I can't stand, Chris Collinsworth is someone who's always annoyed me over the years. Just gets on my nerves. I think he's getting a lot better. And I can't stand any of the college commentators because I think they're all so biased against Ohio State. Desmond Howard, I can't stand those guys. They really annoy me when it comes to the Ohio State Buckeyes. So anyway, that's that. Okay,
not
guys.
He's probably the only one.
I was going to say that, other than Herb Herbstreit. Yes, thank you.
Joe Klatt's pretty good with Ohio State, too.
Okay, so guys, let's move on to music real quick. I just got one quick story, real quick question. I came across a very fascinating video from a rapper by the name of Lazy Bone from the group. Bone Thugs and Harmony, who are out of Cleveland. And one of the things that I have studied over the years, talking about the influence of music on behavior from a Christian point of view, the reality of what artists have to do. Some of the stories are starting to come out of the dark side of this industry, the music industry as a whole, and particularly the rap industry. And he basically talked about a story where the group was put in a room with a gentleman that they had no idea who he was. They just knew he was in charge somehow. And he commented on the good job they were doing. And he also talked to them about private prisons. They're all looking at each other like, first of all, who is this guy? And why is he talking to us about private prisons? And the guy told them about all the money that is made in private prisons. And of course, the more inmates you have, the more money you make for the government. And he basically offered them a cut in this industry if they would gear their music and their videos towards criminal and violent behavior in order to influence, just to say it, a nation of Black young men to emulate this behavior to help keep these prisons full. And he was just really messed up by this. So we could go into this a whole show, but I just want to talk to you about your thoughts on the influence of music over on behavior. What do you guys think? Does it have a strong influence on our behavior? We don't have to stick to rap. You can talk about any genre. And real quick, this is January 9th. The college football national championship is going on. Our beloved Buckeyes should be in there, but Georgia is beating the brakes off of TCU 52-7. Shameful. Shameful. Okay, back to the question at hand. Skinner, your thoughts. Does music influence behavior?
Music is a huge influence on behavior, and it's different for everybody. I'll give you an example. I may have said this before, that when I was in the office, I have a playlist of music, and I have those that, my playlist has anywhere from Yanni, a contemporary composer, to Frank Sinatra, to Metallica and Slayer, and everything in between. But what people around me started to realize, that when they started hearing Metallica on my radio, to leave me the hell alone, because I was calming down. Most people say that heavy music or heavy metal music and all that stuff will get you pumping and get you it's the opposite effect for me. That's my go-to music to calm down, to settle down, so they knew that I was pissed off at something if I had Metallica on, to leave me alone until the music changed to something else. So
I didn't know you were a Yanni fan. I'm a huge Yanni fan. Okay.
Love Yanni. I caught him, a real quick story with him. I was in Seattle in the military at the time, and I was sitting at home with Michael Jr. He was a year old. And I come across PBS channel out there, and here's this composer for this music, and I just sat there and I was mesmerized from the very first note I heard, and I've followed him ever since.
Okay, awesome.
Very good
Blossom.
music.
Saw him at Blossom with the Cleveland Orchestra. Great show.
I wanted to see him.
Fish, music influences behavior?
Well, sure it can. Yeah, absolutely. We can, like I say, just get your emotions going in one respect, and also the lyrics and everything else can certainly influence behavior. No question about it.
Yeah, I would hit somebody upside the head with a brick if they said it didn't. Let's talk about rap music. Not all rap music. Certainly much respect to Des the Reason, who is the reason we are here on Boss Code Media. I think he's one of the best lyricists I've ever heard. His music is unbelievably positive. There's no cursing in his music, no violent actions. and I just wanted to point that out. But the hardcore rap today, you see everything that comes with that, from the fashion to the language to the behavior, played out in front of us in the streets, in our schools, on the news, in movies. So to say that it doesn't, you would be absolutely insane. The problem is we have a nation in denial who thinks that things like this are benign: music, video games, movies, whatever. And they're fooling themselves, because when you see these people, you also see the other things that they show: the money, the cars, the women. So they correlate the behavior with all these benefits. And then that may make them think that that's the only way that they can achieve these things, or what have you. There's a video, I'll send it to you guys later. It's one of my favorites, because I'm so tired of these rap guys flashing money. It's like, seriously? Yeah, like, you don't know how to handle money. You've never seen Bill Gates flash money. Matter of fact, he looks like he works at Family Dollar, you know? But these guys are always flashing money. You don't let people know what you got. But it's a video. A guy was live to Facebook in his car, and he's getting high with his buddy, and he's got all these hundreds, and he's flashing, and boom, they come right up on the side of the car with guns. And the fear in this guy's eyes, and they take all this money and everything. Then he's all pissed afterwards, and he's asking his buddy, "Where's your gun? Where's your gun?" But he ain't getting out of that car. And I'm just like, you know what? That's just what you get, sitting in a car, smoking weed, showing everybody you got all this money. Surely everybody that knows you, somebody's going to try to rob you down the line. But the behavior that comes from the influence of these things is not helping our young people. I went up to the local high school around here one day, and I couldn't believe what was going on in this school. They have no control over these kids anymore. You know, the way they dress in, their pants hanging down, their underwear showing. You could just smell marijuana on a kid. The sexual culture is out of control, and the cursing, the way they talk to teachers. We have teachers who Skinner and I talked about the strike in our school district because of the behavior of the students and the lack of authority that they have over them. So this was a eye-opening video. You know, is he telling the truth? I think so. We can't prove that he is. But to understand that there is an industry willing to offer these guys millions of dollars to influence young people to become criminals so they can end up behind bars is very, very frightening. Look into it. Do your own research. It is a very, very serious subject. So my thoughts on that. All right. Pop culture, take it away.
Genesis does.
16-bit arcade graphics.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does.
16-bit sports action.
You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis
Does.
Genesis does.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free.
Genesis does.
What Nintendo don't.
Buy a 16-bit Genesis system between now and October 31st and get an extra.
All right. I'll just add too. I mean, you look at us. I mean, we're a global wide podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and you would not know by looking at the way that we dress. We keep ourselves very humble in our surroundings. So
Wife beaters and all.
just take a lesson out there. Just take a lesson out there. Only
Hey,
when we're
it was a silk wife beater.
That's right. Only when we go to Laos, so that's when Skinner lets it all show. When
Yep,
we're
that's
in
right.
Laos with our fan or fans out there, you know. So
That's when we bring
Anyway.
out the big guns.
that's right. Okay, so, why don't we start out with some Gen X recommendations here? So anything that you saw, heard, read, whatever that it was interesting that you want to recommend to our viewers and listeners. Keith, anything, sir?
I have got to double down with what Skinner talked about last week. I started season 3 of Jack Ryan on Amazon Prime.
Mhm.
Unbelievable. Outstanding.
I'm on sixth episode, dude. It's
Oh
incredible.
my gosh, just amazing. And Georgia scores again.
Ridiculous.
So
This
I
is
went
sad.
to Netflix this past weekend, a little bit of time that we had, and it's a movie called The Vault. It came out in 2021. It's a heist. It's a movie about a heist over in England. Actually, it takes place in Spain during the 2010 World Cup. And there's only a couple. There's a couple minor actors, but Famke Janssen from the
Yeah, love her. X-Men.
from X-Men movies is in this particular movie. So there's a lot of no names. It's not a plot that's going to wow you, but it's a pretty good heist movie, and the way they tie it in with the 2010 World Cup Finals is pretty interesting. I definitely recommend that. It's a pretty quick movie, hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. Some of the technology that they go to this vault in Madrid, Spain, that's impenetrable, and they steal what they do. So. But it's called The Vault, and it's on Netflix.
Okay. Real quick, Fish, I did watch a new movie last night on Netflix that I thought was pretty cool. Starred Michael Chiklis, who I haven't seen since The Shield. Also, the Fantastic Four movies. He played the Thing. One of my favorite actors. The movie was called one of the last movies we'll see too of Bruce Willis. He's in this movie.
Okay.
And it is called 10 Minutes Gone.
Okay.
Very, very cool movie. Bruce Willis plays this fancy gangster mob type guy. He hires Michael Chiklis, one of the best thieves in the world, and he hires nothing but the best crew put together because somebody is paying them like a couple $1 million to steal a case out of a bank. And Michael Chiklis hires his brother, who no one wanted because his brother is a screw up, but he's very smart, to help plan the caper. They got it planned out to a T, and they go in, they get the case, they got everybody on the floor, but somehow an alarm goes off, and they have to go to their backup plan. So Michael Chiklis and his brother are going down an alley. They take their bank robber clothes off. They got suits on underneath, play it off, and they're walking, and boom, somebody hits Michael Chiklis over the head. He wakes up 10 minutes later. His brother's laying there dead in the alley, and the case is gone. And he's got to figure out who's framing him for taking the case, because now Bruce Willis is sending his cleaner, this woman who she's ruthless, after him to kill him. And of course, he's got to find the rest of the bank robbers to see who turned on him and set him up. Good movie, really good.
All right, very good. Let's check that out.
10 Minutes Gone.
10 Minutes Gone on Netflix.
Yes.
Okay. I had a couple things on Netflix as well. Real quick, there's a series on there, Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. So it's like 8 to 10 episodes. It's all horror themed episodes. They're just simply separate stories, like a short story, 45 minutes or so per episode, a varying range of subjects. So if you like creepy and horror stories, go check that out on Netflix. I'm starting to watch about 2 or 3 episodes in now. There's a new Bernie Madoff documentary on Netflix, Madoff, the Monster of Wall Street. So if you are familiar with this story or you're not as familiar with it, they do it very well. They show some recent interviews of actual folks who worked at the firm, the Bernie Madoff firm. They have some old footage of Bernie Madoff being interviewed in federal prison. And then they have, look-alike actors and actresses playing out the roles as they tell the story. Just a very interesting and tragic story that so many people got scammed in this thing.
Just
so
taken while he was living a life.
Millions, exactly. Millions upon millions of dollars. So check that out. And the big thing that I saw last week, Avatar 2. I went to the theater to go check that out. So saw it in 3D.
What'd you think?
Fascinating, great movie. like I said, I thought the storyline, the first one, as I mentioned before, was okay, so, but I was just captivated by the being immersed in the world, and I assumed I would not be disappointed in that respect in Avatar 2, and that is exactly right. So even if you're sort of a casual fan of the story, just the seeing this in 3D, you have to see it in 3D, and there's no other way to see these movies. James Cameron knows what he's doing. The subtle 3D effects, just like it's amazing. Even down to, I mean, I talked about this on Convincing It Is, but even down to when they pan around and the sun rays, it looks like you're looking at the actual sun with how the effects of the ray in 3D, when the occasional insect flies right by your eye, or aquatic creatures, the scenes in the ocean, just like
My
I said, even if you don't, go ahead, please.
my son was telling me yesterday or Saturday, there's a
Yeah.
show out that shows the technology that they invented for this, and it'll blow your mind.
Yeah, just fascinating. So even if you barely follow the story, like I said, the being immersed in there is good, but the story itself was interesting. It was captivating. A lot of twists and turns. As soon as you think the story is going to wind down, something else happens. So a
Amps you
lot
up,
of
huh?
action and everything else. So really very good. So definitely go check out Avatar: The Way of Water in the theater in 3D. Do it, see it. It's going to probably be the highest grossing movie, could be of all time, the way it's trending. So
I think
I could
it's
definitely see why.
incredible when a person like James Cameron or George Lucas have so much money, unlike a beginning director who maybe hits off with a big movie, the pressure to make the sequel, it comes out too fast, it's kind of thin, doesn't have the substance of the first one. Guys like that can afford to make a sequel 10 years later
Right.
and take your time and the amazing technology. We were talking in one of our earlier shows, I think it was Skinner, who had not seen the first one and was not blown away by it like we were back then. And I was saying how, well, you got to understand that technology was brand new when we saw it. No one's had seen anything like it. Skinner has seen all these Avengers movies and X-Men, all this other stuff. We're seeing this technology being used. They all got it from Avatar, and it's old news now. So they waited 10 years to come up with totally new stuff. My son was telling me, and it was worthwhile. Very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely a must see. Go check it out. Okay, in the world of pop culture news, we did have a passing that we're familiar with here. Adam Rich, 54 years of age. I just turned
Wow.
54. I think you did as well.
Yes,
Keith.
sir.
We met in November and December,
Mm-hmm.
respectively. Passed away recently. Adam Rich was known as the child actor Nicholas Bradford on Eight is Enough. So that show lasted for a few seasons, at 1977 to 1981. If you are in our generation, you probably watched that show with our parents. I know I used to watch it every so often with my parents.
Yeah.
Just you know his face, you know who he was. I don't know what else he really did other than that. He probably had spots here and there, but I don't know. Like I said, I just remember him as the kid on the show and just reading some commentary about him. His fellow actors on the show had very nice things to say about him. As even he was a child actor at the time, he seemed to be a nice kid and everything else. So that's it, really. So any thoughts on Adam Rich, Keith? Again, I don't know what else we may have
I
known
never
him
watched it
from,
with
but
my parents, but I
okay.
was faithful to that show. I don't know what it was, but I just loved that show. I thought it was a fascinating family dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Dick Van Patten, was a typical dad, if you will, and it was kind of like the Brady Bunch. You thought, wow, what a great family life they have. This big house and everybody. Nobody was wanting for anything, but I was a huge fan of that show, and I don't recall ever seeing him do anything else.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. Skinner, any thoughts on Adam Rich? It is enough.
Condolences to his family, first of all. 54 is young, but Ironically, the producers from that show came to 455 Thomas Court and asked if they wanted to reboot the Eight is Enough show.
But they said
but
12
yeah.
was too many.
But then they said, yeah, well, there's too many grandkids, so they ended up turning us down. But
8 is
no,
enough, 12's too
all
many.
kidding aside, I did watch the show. I don't remember much of it. I remember it being a warm family type television show. I'm sure it's on one of the HBO or Paramount Plus. So we'll have to try to find it, maybe revisit it again, because it's one of those shows where I know I watched it, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, he definitely was a feel-good show. Dick Van Patten was a very good father figure and everything on the show. Super fast trivia, as we're Star Wars fans. Mark Hamill was cast on that show, so Mark Hamill had the part of the older son, and he was offered the role of Luke Skywalker. Could not get out of the contract. They were not going to let him get out of the contract. He suffered a car accident, and that's what got him out of that contract and allowed him to take on the role of Luke Skywalker. So could have went a whole different direction with Mark Hamill's career. Anyhow.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay. Another prequel show is coming out, so these are gaining more popularity. Prequels of different shows. Obviously, the prequel to Game of Thrones is very popular. There's a prequel to The Hobbit. There's a new prequel coming out for Grease, the movie Grease. The Pink Ladies is going to debut soon. It's a 10-episode series on Paramount Plus. It takes place apparently in 1954, which is 4 years before the setting of Grease took place. I don't have Paramount Plus. I'm not that interested in it personally. I'm sort of a fringe fan of the movie Grease. But Keith, are you interested in seeing the Pink Ladies prequel to Grease series, or not so much?
No, I am not, and I am a huge fan of the movie Grease. I hope this doesn't come out the wrong way. I don't know how this movie can be interesting featuring the Pink Ladies without the T-Birds. I just don't know. It could be, it could be, but it doesn't interest me at all.
All right. Skinner, any Pink Ladies?
I do have Paramount Plus. Probably for the show, I'll probably watch it and then give a critique on it that way. Because my family's big Grease fans, especially my middle child Chelsea was a Grease fanatic since she was a very little girl. But while you're talking about Paramount Plus, our guy that we're very familiar with, Jeremy Renner, had a terrible accident out there in his home in Utah. And good to hear over the weekend that he's recovering well. He's got a show called Mayor of Kingstown. It takes place in a small city outside of Detroit, and it's a prison setting. And if you've not seen the first season, go watch it. It came out at the exact same time that his movie.
How did we get from Pink Ladies to Jeremy Renner?
It's just Paramount Plus with Jeremy Renner. Needless to say, thankfully him, he's getting better. But Pink Ladies, I'll watch it and we'll do a critique on it here in a few weeks.
Yeah. And get Paramount Plus. It's awesome, man. All your
Star Trek. It is very
all
good.
your Star Trek stuff is there. Pretty amazing. And they are about to become your official channel for Star Trek. There are at least 3 new Star Trek shows coming out. It's going to be pretty incredible.
Okay.
Picard is worth it alone.
Okay. Well, it's a good thing you pulled back Skinner there, Keith, because it was very close to getting back to Nick Cage somehow.
Yeah, no.
That was close.
He was close.
Yeah. Just a quick feel-good story. Now, we're in the Northeast Ohio area, as you know, if you listen to us at all. So a local Cleveland guy did Cleveland weather for many years until he made a bigger name for himself on the national show Today. So Al Roker became like the national weather guy on Today. He does a lot of other things on the Today show over the years. So he's really created a national television presence. He was hosting the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade for many, many years. And this was the first year in 27 years he was not able to do it. He got a blood clot and on his leg, and apparently traveled up into his lungs. So he was out for a while and hospitalized, but he is now recovering, and he went back on the Today Show over the past few days or so. So it's nice to see Al Roker back. So just giving a shout out to a local Cleveland guy who made it big. So this made me feel good to read that story today and see Al Roker on there. The guy's always smiling, always a positive presence. So good for Al Roker. I'm glad to see him back on the Today Show over the last few
Good
days.
for him.
Absolutely.
It is now 65-7, Georgia.
Good Lord. That's ridiculous. If Ohio State had to get wide left. Oh, well. Making the news all over the place is Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. You know, they were interviewed, I think, last year by Oprah. They, of course, they left the royal family, disassociated themselves with
Amazing.
distanced themselves,
Amazing.
not disassociated, distanced themselves from the royal
Yes.
family. Prince Harry has a new book out, all kinds of things about that, and some scuffle he had with his brother. They were on 60 Minutes this past Sunday, at least Harry was. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll check that out. There's a documentary on Netflix. So all the rage with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. So it's just interesting the continued fascination of folks in the States with the royal family. Obviously, the Queen passed away. Queen Elizabeth passed away last year, and that was a huge news story. A lot of people remembering her in the States. So I don't know. It's just interesting to me. I am not interested personally in the royal family. I think it's just a I don't quite get it. It's just you were just sort of lucky and born into that family. It's just a symbol over there. I don't know. I'm probably way off base. So I know some folks listen to us in the UK. So I apologize. I don't mean disrespect. It's just for me, I don't quite get our fascination in the States with the royal family. Just me. So I don't know. What do you think, Ethan? Are you interested in the royal family and Prince Harry and all this stuff? Or are you like me, that you don't quite get the fascination with it?
Okay. Interesting question, because I can answer it two different ways. I am very interested in the royal family as far as the working structure. How do they do things? So behind closed door stuff, that type of stuff. I believe the royal family is a huge part of a faction that runs the world, them along with the Rothschilds. That's a whole nother show. And that concludes my interest. But this fascination with them, like people are, I could care less. I don't, watch the wedding and all that other stuff. But I get why there is this fascination, especially among women, because it is the closest thing to the fairy tale that we read about. It's why movies like The Princess Bride is huge, and all these other movies, because it's fantasy. So it's the same reason why us guys, and not just guys, but mostly guys, we watch, the Avengers and things like that, because it's the closest thing, that fantasy we have in our mind of being powerful and being strong and all this other stuff. Well, for women, they grew up with reading the Cinderella and the Rapunzel and all that stuff. And this is the closest thing to that, having, a horse and carriage wedding and all that type of other stuff. So I can see why there's a fascination with that. It's also a fascination with power. And you think about it, everything we know about kings and queens we see on TV and movies. This is the actual was Queen of England, now King of England, And when you watch the stories, King Arthur and all this other stuff, this is the descendants of that. This is the line of that in modern day time. So I can get it from that standpoint.
All right, fair enough. Very good. Skinner, what are your thoughts on the fascination of the royal family?
Couldn't give a damn, to be truthful.
All right, Skinner, quit mincing words. Just say what you mean.
Yeah. Hey, why beat around? I remember when Princess Diana passed. We were in our early 20s when that happened. That's about the extent of my fascination with that whole story.
Mhm.
It's a shame she died at such a young age, but this royal wedding and all this crap that's going on in England. If I was in England, I'd probably have a different outlook with it. If I was a female, I'd probably have a different outlook with it. But to be honest, yeah, I could give a damn less what they do over there.
Yeah, my sister made a comment about them today, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe the stuff they've had to go through, and this and that." And I'm sure it might be interesting if I gave 2 listens to it, but I don't follow all that
Yeah.
stuff
All right.
because to me, it just runs along the line of soap opera stuff, and even though it's real life, but
Real life tabloids.
yeah, it's presented like that. Skinner, it's
Mhm.
presented like tabloid gossip stuff. That's why I don't. So, like the news stuff, the news coverage of the royal family, that stuff interests me. But the presentation of their personal lives and all that other stuff, I could care less. Let the people live.
Well, if anybody has a different opinion out there is listening to this, we want to hear from you. Why
Yeah.
should we, if you are fascinated by the world, if you find it more interesting than we do, for different reasons, let us know why you feel that way. We'd love to know your opinions. Okay, so this week in pop culture history here, guys. Again, we're shooting this, as you mentioned, on January the 9th. January the 8th in 2004, could almost argue in some respects it could be the start of the Trump presidency, that The Apprentice debuted in 2004. So obviously this was with Donald Trump and his company. We all know the show, I'm sure. They would have people come on and quote unquote work in the Trump organization, and would of course, Trump's famous catchphrase, "You're fired," and just tell people why they're fired. Certainly for him, gained a lot of popularity and notoriety and made his name maybe kind of definitely put it back out in the forefront. That's for sure. So I'm sure that's where a lot of people, gained some interest in him. And when he talked about running for president, I'm sure if some just knew him from television and had the idea that he's a good businessman, in part because of the television show, right or wrong. And there you have it. So never watched the show one time. I mean, I know what it was. Then Arnold Schwarzenegger took it over after Trump left, and I think it since has stopped. But there's no plans that I'm aware of to resurrect it. But never saw it. Never was that interested in it. I thought it was it was an interesting concept, but I thought it was sort of goofy and too fictitious for me and stuff like that personally. But any thoughts at all on this, Keith, as far as the show itself? Do you agree or disagree that that this was a somehow of a factor in Trump gaining popularity in his run for president? What are your thoughts on all this?
I agree with you. I thought the show was goofy, whatever. I never watched an episode myself. Thought it was stupid. Interesting concept, but I thought the show was very stupid the way it was presented. I've always thought Trump to be a clown, a rich clown. So be it. The way he presents himself in front of a camera. And boy, the second part of your comment or question is very interesting. We forgot how popular Trump was even way before The Apprentice. Okay. He was famous. That's how he got that show. And the reason why I say that, I like to find old comedies I haven't seen in 20 or 30 years and watch them from the first episode to their last episode. And it brings back so many memories. I did it with Cheers. As a matter of fact, I'm in season 9. I'm not done yet. And I am in season 3 of an old comedy I had forgotten about till I discovered it on Hulu, Just Shoot Me, with David Spade.
Love that show.
And I forgot one of the running themes throughout that show was this about a fashion magazine run by a guy named Jack Gallo. He's a millionaire. He has a supermodel wife who was a model there. And one of the running themes throughout the show is his competition with Donald Trump. He's tired of Trump putting Trump puts his name on everything, and it just irritates him. So he's always competing to get a park named after him instead of Trump. And I'm watching it, and it's like Trump is mentioned almost every episode. And I was like, wow, I forgot how popular Trump was. When we thought of rich person, Trump was the name that was synonymous with rich old white guy. Well, he wasn't old at the time, but the young, handsome billionaire, always had the hot wife or girlfriend or whatever. Trump was that guy. And it started way before The Apprentice.
Yeah, good point. Skinner, what do you think about all this, The Apprentice, Trump's popularity, the show itself, anything?
So to quote that show, Steeler fan watching the field goal in Miami, you're fired from the playoffs. No,
Boy, you guys are haters.
I actually watched the show for probably 2 seasons when it originally aired, and it was kind of hokey. You got to know Trump a little bit on in front of the camera. What it did is it led me to go back and research how he became rich. Now, he didn't earn all his money. He had a rich father that started it, but Trump certainly compounded his money by doing business. So got to know him a little bit. Love him or hate him, right or wrong, the man is polarizing in many aspects, right or wrong. So you got to give him credit for what he's done to this point. We'll see. There's supposedly writing on the wall. He's going to try 2024. Who knows? But again, right or wrong, he's a very polarizing figure, and he's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Okay, and January the 9th. So again, today, back in 1976, Rocky debuted in theaters. So,
Wow.
Sylvester Stallone's, at the time, his only leading role.
Adrian!
That's right. He had to fight to have this movie made. They offered to buy the script from him, but he insisted that he star in the movie. Stood by his guns, and obviously got his wish. And no looking back for Sly ever since. It was shot in under a month for under $1 million, and I'm reading it here from thisweekinpopculturehistory.com. It was nominated for 10 awards and won for Best Director, Best Picture, and Best Film Editing. So what an amazing debut for Sly. And obviously, just no looking back for that franchise. Went on to produce several sequels. Obviously, they sort of got campier and as they kind of ran along, but I love the Rocky movies. Like, I don't care, I love them. And then it certainly now has the Creed movie franchise has spawned off of this, and there's a new Creed 3 coming out here very soon. That looks very, very good, with Michael B. Jordan now playing the role of Apollo Creed's son. So I think it's great. So I think it started a very fun movie franchise, certainly huge in the 80s and late 70s. So I love the Rocky movies. Keith, what are your thoughts on Rocky? In the first one, I haven't seen the first one in a while, personally. I need to go back and rewatch the first one. But,
I implore you to go back and watch it, because Rocky 1, in my opinion, is one of the greatest movies ever made. Not sports movies. This is one of the greatest movies ever made. I am a huge fan of the Rocky series, even when they got campy for couple of them. 3 was definitely campy. 4 was a little campy. And then 5, he started getting a little back towards serious again. Of course, the last Rocky Balboa, was outstanding.
Yes.
And the Creeds were outstanding too. But Rocky 1, to me, was one of the greatest acting performances ever. Man, when you watch how he really embellished a guy who was a little punch drunk. Some of the words, he wasn't very educated. Some of the banter and the lines in that movie were totally brilliant. One of my favorite scenes is when he proposed to her, out in the zoo, which was shut down because it was winter, and he was nervous and he wasn't really romantic. And he was like, yeah, I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind marrying me too much. That was just so authentic and brilliant. And it was great. And of course, in Rocky 2, one of my best scenes in any movie in my entire life is in the hospital when she finally comes out the coma and sees the baby, and he tells her he ain't gonna fight Creed. And she goes, "I want you to do one thing for me." He goes, "Come here." He goes, "When?" And then that bell rings and that music starts. I get chills just thinking about it. It just exemplifies what the love of a woman will do for a man, will push you to your boundaries and beyond. And I just love the movies in the series. I can't say enough of it. Some of the greatest soundtracks ever made, the songs, David Tepper, his brother, just love it all.
Very good. Skinner?
Overall, the series, I'm not as big a fanatic as you two gentlemen are, but certainly the first three Rockies were spectacular, especially the first one. If you haven't seen it for a while, Fish, we implore you to go watch it. I just watched it within the last year, and I forgot how good it really was. Sly is on the map because of those movies. I've enjoyed everything he's done, both in front and behind the cameras. And I'll be interested to see. I've not seen any of the Creed movies yet.
Oh my gosh.
So you guys got me interested now because I've seen the Hokey 5 and 6. I thought 4 was okay. 3 and 4 were okay, but 5 and 6 was absolutely terrible.
6 wasn't hokey. 6, they got back to the original.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Format.
So I do want to check out the Creed movies because I hear that they are pretty spectacular.
Yeah, they're awesome. So, man, they're great.
That's on my list.
Real quick, do some reading on the behind the scenes stuff in Rocky. Just fascinating stuff, man. I just the other day watching stuff. There's a couple scenes that really they were fighting because Creed hit Stallone too hard, and they got into it. The scene where the trainers had to come in and separate them, that was real. All that happened for real, because one of them hit the other one too hard. They got pissed off about it. Just some great reads. Rocky 4, Carl Weathers, who played Apollo Creed, got into it with Dolph Lundgren in some of the scenes. Their boxing match, some of that stuff was real. So some really good behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, I'll check that out. And of course, Rocky had a Cleveland connection there too. It was the story was based on a guy out of Cleveland, a boxer.
That's right.
That Muhammad Ali is like out of nowhere. That Muhammad Ali gave a title fight chance to, and the guy lost, but he gave Ali a fight. So that's where Stallone got the idea of the script, and there you have it. So. Yeah, great stuff. And like you say, all the stuff I agree with, and the friendship of two men forged that were obviously enemies to become best of friends with Apollo Creed and the Rocky was really a neat thing to see as well. Okay, and then in 2007, also today, guys, the first iPhone is unveiled. So Steve Jobs revealed the very first iPhone to the public in 2007. At the Macworld convention in San Francisco. The first two models at 4 gigabytes and 8 gigabytes were priced from $499 and $599. The two became available the following June at 6 p.m. And hundreds of fans stood outside the stores and waiting to get their hands on it was called the Jesus phone, I guess, at the time. So the iPhone debuted. So I'm interested here in our lifetime. So for some type of new technology that came out during our lifetime, obviously you could talk about medical. I mean, we're not talking about things that's saving people's lives. I'm talking about from a convenience and technology that the average person owns. Okay. Is this the greatest technology that we could ever have imagined as a kid? Is this still the greatest technology that's come out that we could use for personal use in our lifetime? Keith, what do you think about the iPhone?
I certainly think it's up there. The biggest commodity in the world, we went from gold to oil, and as the last 20 years, the biggest commodity in the world has been information. Well, information gets disseminated through communication. So this has been as huge as far as communication is concerned, because it took some of the other great inventions, internet, and put it all in this one device.
Mm-hmm.
Camera, just to name a few, recording, all that in this one device, and then able to disseminate that information. I can take a video of you and I hanging out and then email that video to somebody in California or wherever, or Russia or wherever, or put it out for the whole world to see, from that instant device. And I just think it's fascinating when you think about that. So from a standpoint of communication and information, I think it might be at least in the top two. I think of other things that are hugely important. You talk about eating, the microwave might be up there somewhere,
Sure.
but definitely I
Sure.
would agree it probably is.
Skinner, what are your thoughts on the
Interesting.
iPhone as far as the greatest technology in our lifetime?
I think it has to be in a conversation. I had the Motorola Razr was my first phones back in the early 2000s, and I went through a couple of them because while I loved how the thing worked, structurally it was a piece of garbage. The buttons would fall out, especially that home button. So I went through a bunch of them, but it was nice and convenient. Stick it in your pocket, didn't even know you had it in there. So my first real phone after that was an iPhone, because I had messed around with the iPod Touch. Before the iPhone was actually come out, you had the iPod Touch, which is where all the streaming music and games first originated before they turned them into the phone. So I was familiar with that process. So I've been an iPhone person since the very inception of the phone.
Yeah.
But like he said, the technology and everything that phone represents today is so different compared to what, like he said, the invention of the internet was still fresh in our minds in 2007. That, fellas, is only 15, 16 years
It's
ago.
crazy. Yeah.
But the inception of the internet was so fascinating and still so very raw. And then to put that in that little screen of a telephone, yeah, it was brilliant.
It's amazing. And I didn't get to talk on the iPhone specifically, but I just want to say this, our listeners out there, I was a strict Android user. I had the Samsung Galaxy series, and I thought they were all fantastic.
I used to pick on you because of it.
Yeah.
I remember.
I thought they were great. I didn't know what everybody's problem was, but I loved it. Still think they were great. But when I got the iPhone 11, which was my first iPhone, then I got it because of the camera technology, because we started our show. I hated it. I wanted to throw it away. I couldn't understand how people use this thing. It was too complicated. It didn't make any sense to me. And so many people say the same thing. I know people who got rid of their iPhones, and I tell everybody, stick with it. Once you get used to it and understand the language, you'll say, where have you been all my life? Man, I tell you what, I don't know if I could ever go back to anything else, but I think they're just amazing.
Absolutely. I mean, just, to have it explained to us as teenagers, even, to me, it would have been, I wouldn't have got my head around it.
Yeah.
To understand the fact that you would have a portable device that you could look up anything you could think about. You could take pictures with it. You could take videos with it. You can connect with your friends through social media apps and connect with the general public, and do a show like this. That we shoot this. All this is all iPhone stuff. We shoot the video on the phone.
Yes.
We grab it. We grab it through different apps. Pull the audio, post it, and like I said, our one listener in Laos would not see us today without the iPhone technology.
It's amazing. I sold phones in the late 90s when they had just come out, really. And I remember when the first phone that you could text your name on the screen came out.
Yep.
Everybody lost their mind.
Yeah.
And they thought this was unbelievable technology. And I remember our tech person reading in a magazine about a company called Vodafone. Vodafone owned AirTouch. You guys remember AirTouch back in the day? And they said, you know what? They said down the road, we're going to have phones with little screens on them that you can see the person you're talking to. We thought that was such hooey.
Yeah.
And now look where we are. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's just second nature. FaceTime, messenger video. Unbelievable.
That's right. And now you can even put on your wrist. Like the old Dick Tracy and George Jetson fantasy things.
The Maxwell Smart.
Yes. That's right. That's right. Of course, you could have a whole other conversation on the negative side. We've had different conversations on this podcast, different episodes where we talk about the detriment of social media and the phone and everything else, where it really has dulled down human connection, personal connection in many respects. So there's certainly some negative repercussions from the technology.
Some could say it's eliminated human interaction.
Yeah. How about from a physical point of view? I was watching a fascinating video the other day that talked about people quit laying your phones down by your head when you lay down, because that phone has to search for towers, and those waves are going through your brain. They have found proof of a link to cancer disorders and things like that. So there are people who talk way too much. I have a niece who just, every time you see her phone's to her ear, it's annoying. Like, you don't have that much important business going on in your life. And I'm concerned about her, all them waves going through her head. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, give it a break.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Very good stuff here, guys. January 12th, 1966 saw the debut of the Batman TV series, the great Adam West, Burt Ward, campy Batman series. At that point, now certainly, we watched it, or at least I did, in reruns as a kid. And that was the first time that we really had exposure to a live action Batman. Certainly, they had old serials in the old, in the theater and all that. I really don't recall ever watching any of those. I don't know if they were ever on television or what, but they certainly had old black and white reels of the theater. But that 1966 show was the first time watching Batman and Commissioner Gordon and the terrific Batmobile and all the great villains on the small screen rather. And they did make a movie on the big screen, the Batman cast movie. And I've actually, over the years, these are on HBO Max too, by the way. So they've actually sort of relaunched the 1966 Batman universe. So there's a couple movies out there, animated movies, that star Burt Ward, Adam West, and some of the original voices that were still alive in some of these animated movies. So it's an interesting way to relive some of the campiness of the old Batman series here. But I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was crazy fun. Certainly did not take itself serious at all, and it was intended not to. But it was also, I don't know. Adam West was a great Bruce Wayne on this thing. He was terrific here. He played a good mentor. They always tried to teach you a lesson. I don't know. I just thought it was a lot of fun. It was a great series, and love it to this day. So, Keith, what are your thoughts on the old Batman TV series?
Anybody says anything bad about it, they got to fight me.
Yeah.
It was just an important part of my childhood. It was campy, but it knew it was campy. It was trying to be campy. It was so much fun. It was creative and inventive. It took comic books and made it come alive. If you read a comic book, obviously there's no sound in a comic book. So when somebody hit somebody, they came up with all these great funny words, kapow, babadoom, things like that. They did that in the show live. I thought that was fascinating. So just so much fun. The Batmobile, the Batcave. Man, it was just so much fun.
Absolutely. Skinner, thoughts on the old Batman TV series?
Yeah, I'm with Keith. If you say anything bad, those are fighting words. I remember my fascination with the Batmobile. I could not. Man. There was nothing more cooler in the world.
Nothing
than the old Batmobile. Nothing cooler. And to this day, I still think about that show, and I get that feeling just the same. So,
I bet you to guess, guys in our generation, if you could pick like 5 cars that if you could just pick like have a replica
Interesting.
of
Yeah.
any 5, we should make it. Maybe that's a topic too. By the way,
That'd
but
be awesome.
yeah, I would venture to guess it would definitely the original '66 Batmobile would definitely be in my top 5 car
Let's
if I could
definitely
own
do
a
that for
replica.
next week.
Absolutely.
Let's
Without
definitely
question.
do that next week. That'd be
Yeah,
fascinating.
we'll put a pin in that. Okay,
Okay.
Well,
go ahead.
so we'll have to put a wrinkle in it because I know all 3 of us will have the Batmobile on there as our number
Of course.
1. So
Well,
then
we
we'll
know
do,
that. That's a
we'll
given,
do
right?
2 through 6. How's that?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, well, it'll
How
be
about
in
we
there.
do our top 5? That's a given. We'll take that one out. We will talk about it, but we all know that's in there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, and then 4 years ago, on the 13th, so January 13th, 2018. That should be 5 years ago now. Excuse me. The residents and tourists in Hawaii received a message from the emergency alert system alerting people that there is a ballistic missile threat, and this is not a test. So somebody accidentally sent this message out. It was supposed to be a test of some sort, to test whatever they were doing, but they sent it out on the actual
Jeez.
feed, and you might as you can imagine, it caused quite the panic. And let's see, it was 2018. It was in the morning, and until 8:07 a.m. they sent it through. So it was out there 38 minutes. That's what it was. 38 minutes to pass before they finally got the message out there that hey, this is that was a mistake and everything else here. But you can imagine the panic that people must have felt. Probably you get it, you think it's a joke or you think it's a mistake, and then after you don't hear anything for a while, it probably freaked out a lot of people here. So the governor had to apologize publicly, and they had the state's emergency management administrator had resigned almost immediately for the mistake. So quite the mess out there. So I kind of forgot about this story until I reread this today.
I did
But I
too.
definitely remember that making that was a big news story at the time here. So do you remember this thing, and what do you imagine what you might have felt if you were in Hawaii at the time? So Keith, any thoughts on the?
First question: did they catch this person?
It was somebody who worked there. It was somebody who it was supposed to be a test or something like that. It wasn't malicious, I don't think. It was just somebody.
It wasn't malicious. Yeah.
No, somebody just sent it out accidentally on the live feed, and they weren't supposed to, of course.
Well, if it wasn't malicious, then all I can say is I hope that they did whatever to make sure that nothing like that could happen again. Because one, I can't imagine the fear and the panic that was infused in the people. I would imagine people to this day could possibly still be traumatized from those moments. Who knows what people did when they heard that? From the panic, the hiding, the committing crimes, the thinking this is our last moments together. Who knows what all that could have happened because of this? It's just like, wow, seriously?
Yeah.
So something like that should never be able to happen. I'm glad it wasn't done maliciously, but I forgot about it too till you brought it up in pre. But man, this is a scary story when you think about it. And of course, the Gen X spin on it, which actually is not the Gen X spin, more of a baby boomer spin. It goes back to the days of the War of the Worlds. Radio broadcast, which scared the crap out of the entire country. So yeah, horrifying.
Yeah. Skidder, do you remember the story? What are your thoughts?
Well, I do, and I've been to Hawaii when I was in the military. I got paid to travel to Hickam Air Force Base. I was there for a month, so I can only imagine what I would have felt like had I heard that over the loud, over the waves. Because there's nowhere for you to go unless you want to go up into the volcanoes, into the mountains. There's no way to hide from stuff like that. So I can only imagine what kind of panic, and that stuff can't happen. And unfortunately, it did.
Oswald Keith, it would have been another Skinner. That's what I think.
You just wait a minute. I was just about to say, unfortunately, when I think about this, I keep thinking about that scene in Independence Day in the truck, the young girl and the guy. This could be our last night on Earth. Don't you want me to make you a woman?
Yep.
All right, way to go, TCU. Way to hang in there.
Oh boy, jeez. Wide left, Ohio State.
Yeah, really. Only lost by 55 points. I'm sorry, 57 points.
Oh, brother. All
I
right.
can't count. Anyway, they lost.
That's all right. Well, their quarterback for Georgia, I think he's 35 years old, something like that. So he gives him a chance to retire his collegiate career. Okay, guys. Well, this is also not this announcement is also not a drill. It is now time for the end of another episode of the It Came From GenX podcast.
Wow.
So, yes, good episode, guys. A lot of topics covered here. So, Keith, any announcements you may have, sir, before we throw it over to Mr. Skinner?
If you are in the Northeast Ohio area, on the 21st of this month, my band Mixed Nuts, a pop, rock, dance, country, hip hop, heavy metal fusion band, will be performing at the Sail Inn, and that is out at Lake Milton, 16736 Milton Avenue in Lake Milton. Nice place, and we'll be there on the 21st. I think show will start around 7 or 8. Come on out and rock out with us. Should be a good night.
Yeah, very good. I like it, Lake Milton area. Nice area. Nice folks out there. Absolutely. Okay. Very good. Well, as we mentioned earlier, look for me on the Convincing Idiots podcast with Dean and Nick, pop culture fun. Also every week on where you listen to podcasts, and Boss Code Media and YouTube at Convincing Idiots. Find us there.
Yeah,
Skinner?
real quick.
I'm sorry.
Please. I just want to say, if you're also in this area and you listen to our show, my church and my organization, Hallie's House, is continuing to collect coats, hats, scarves, and gloves for the homeless. You wouldn't believe people walking around in the cold without a coat. Please get a hold of me, Facebook, to the show, me personally, whatever. Your donations are a huge help. We're going to try to go out every weekend and hand out coats and gloves. There are children, there are ladies out there, everybody. It's just the need is great. So your donations would be appreciated.
Very good. Excellent cause. Thank you, sir.
Yep. Any help will certainly be appreciated.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Skinner, any announcements? And feel free to take us out, sir, whenever you're ready.
I don't believe that there is. All our birthdays seem to be last month, so we're good for a little bit. So, nope. Great show, fellas. Great topics. Our listeners out there, especially you talking about over in England, if you have a difference of opinion based on the royal family, we certainly would love to hear from you. Contact the show, and we'll get a shout out there. So for Brian Fisher and Keith Porter, I'm Michael Skinner. We are the guys from GenX. Prayers continue for the folks out there in the Middle East, out there in Russia and the territories, along with everybody in Ukraine, and very recently anybody in and around Taiwan that's still brewing up there. And the show wants to shout out them as well. Folks, have a great week. We will talk to you soon. And go Steelers! Oh, wait.
That's
they're on the
right.
couch with the Browns.
But we beat the Browns. Yes.
Good show,
beat
fellas.
The brakes off the Browns.
Hey, this is Skinner from It Came From GenX. If you like this video, please hit the subscribe button and like, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, do you like to listen to your dad's friends talk? Then you might like this. We don't know if it's good or not good. We're going to shoot it anyway. You damn kids better give us a like.
GenX.
That's right.
And these people are going to follow us to the new page.
Yep. That's pretty good.
I love it.
All right, okay, well, I guess we'll do another take if you want to. Okay.
That's our new TikTok, right?